Program Manager for Inclusive Growth. What that means basically is that we work with the government of South Africa to address issues of development in the country. And as everyone knows, we're talking about issues of inequality, unemployment, and poverty. So as UNDP, we prioritize our work based on the priorities of the government of South Africa, but we've got our own targets that we aim to achieve that are based on the Sustainable Development Goals.
UNDP had a partnership with SALGA to try and implement programs which in particular in this instance were meant to deal with COVID-19 related challenges, and amongst those challenges were how South Africa has been affected by COVID-19, and they initiated a program which SALGA welcomed, and we were prepared to work with UNDP to make sure that at least we tap from whatever resources and programs, including on how best we can make sure that government responds to COVID-19 challenges.
Through most of the development programs that we have at the moment, which have been motivated by COVID-19. So as UNDP, we were able to secure funding from the Japanese government to address the challenges of COVID-19 in the country, and mainly to support the government of South Africa and the people of South Africa in addressing the challenges of COVID-19.
One of the programs that was introduced was the production of the face masks. By producing a face mask, we saw it necessary that we don't go to the well-established companies, but rather focus on those small companies which have been severely affected due to the fact that they were not anyway covered in terms of the government programs, your grants and any other, because they only do these programs as a hand-to-mouth. And we saw that at least as a way of making sure that they sustain and live and not be affected negatively in terms of economy, let's identify the informal face mask producers in our space, and we made sure that we cover all the corners in Gauteng. You know, we have 11 municipalities. Geographic spread was what was important for us, so that each and every municipality can have a way of benefiting, because SALGA is representing all the municipalities regardless of who is the governing party in that space.
The program that we have with the Japanese government, or that is funded by the Japanese government, focuses on three main areas. The first area has to do with health systems. The second area has to do with disaster management, and the third area has to do with human rights and socio-economic development. So this is where the SALGA program falls, under the Human Rights and Socio-Economic Development Program. We ended up with SALGA because naturally, as UNDP, we are an organization that says leave no one behind. And so what became necessary then for us as UNDP South Africa was to say who is no one in the context of COVID-19 in South Africa, and where is no one. So from a socio-economic development standpoint, for us, the priority became the informal traders and small businesses.
We set a criteria in line with what was required by UNDP to make sure that nobody takes chances whilst we are supporting them. We wanted not to compromise the health of the communities by producing the masks that are not of quality, and that was the main criteria that was set. And SALGA helped those who are not at the standard, at the required standard of the mask, to make sure that they meet those quality mask requirements.
My wife brought me an application. I think it was a digital application, which was advertised that there was a project between UNDP and SALGA, that they were looking for people who would manufacture, basically, like, you know, specifically small businesses who would manufacture masks for the people who would not be able to afford them. But then at the same time, saying that, you know, they'll be able to help you as a small business so that you can be able to also get your business to another level. One of the conditions for the people who be eligible for applying are the people who would be able to demonstrate how the COVID-19 lockdown has affected their business. So I then specified that, during January, I had placed an order for, I think, about 500 sneaker soles. So I had already paid like 30,000 for the 500 soles. But then, you see, this is what happened. What happened is that immediately after I've paid, there was lockdown in China. So they couldn't start manufacturing. So immediately the lockdown was lifted that side. Then we had lockdown this side. So it means they were able to start manufacturing that side, but then the product or the cargoes could not be sent here because now the borders were closed. So that is one of the reasons why I had considered myself to qualify for this particular project, because I felt that, even my business, even though it's small and it just started, that, it has definitely been adversely affected.
During 2020, March, when we had a blow with the pandemic and the lockdown, it was very difficult because all the operation came to a standstill. And there was so much of uncertainties of what's going to happen, especially after the 30th of April, where we actually noticed that this is actually bigger than we thought, when we thought it was going to be a month of an event or 2 months. At that time, the president had announced the compulsory wearing of masks. And I sat down and thought about how one can actually basically diversify business because of also the uncertainties that were happening. I saw an advert of UND, actually it was like SALGA and UND. Somebody sent it through to me via WhatsApp, and then I went to Google to check the validity, because I think you would notice that during this time, there's also been a lot of scamming processes that has been going on. So I checked the validity of it and then saw that it was really valid. And I've completed all the documents that were required, the minimum requirements in terms of your company registration, tax clearance forms, and the banking information, and also the background where we started with the mask, the development that Monenebe has been doing with the community.
It was quite a challenge, but fortunately I managed to get 2 dedicated ladies whom themselves have got their own machines, and so we brokered some kind of a deal that looks like some kind of a SAP of sorts. And then they helping me, and even now I believe that we are on track because I've managed to find people who are willing to help me in that manner. So I can say that every day the capacity has been anything between 50 and 100 because it was not long since I've managed to find people who can be able to help me with the manufacturing capacity. Yes.
I must indicate that the order from SALGA was the first order that we had of around 1,002. Like I indicated earlier, we received 100, 250, 20. So it was the first big order that we received, which we are quite grateful of. And that has actually basically also tested our capability in terms of producing bulk. I know they've given it to us within a week, and we made sure that in a week's time, as they have given us the schedule, we have met the target as indicated. By the time we finished, and even basically sent them an email to say, look, our order is ready, we have packaged it, it's ready to be collected.
As the pandemic hit us, we then realized that we need to readjust a little bit the programs that we are implementing, such that as a collective we can then be able to mobilize the resources that we have access to in order to assist municipalities and the communities to be able to respond and survive COVID-19. At the municipal level, municipalities have been confronted quite significantly by COVID-19. For example, a lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people got confronted with health challenges. By extension, when those happen, the resources of municipalities, including human capacity and financial resources, are stretched beyond their limits in order to be able to cope. In programs like this, if I may use it as an example, is to ensure that in our criteria for support, we factor in the prioritization of those SMMEs or informal participants who fall within those categories. Disability being one of them, youth being a key case in point, women being a particular case in point. I must say that a large number of the beneficiaries are women. We need to verify the number of those with disabilities, but they were a particularly targeted group in terms of the criteria that we set for the beneficiaries.
The great thing with working with the South African Local Government Association is that they understand, or rather municipalities understand their communities best. So it wasn't for us as UNDP or us as SALGA head office to say this is what is going to be done in this community or in this province. It was the communities and the municipalities themselves that came up and said this is the priority for us. So for instance, we work with informal traders, with the mamas that are cooking on the streets. We work with car washers. We work with people who are sewing and doing masks, which is a program that we have in Gauteng. And a whole lot of other. We work with street traders that are selling fruits, vegetables, and so on and so on. And the programs are differentiated across all provinces. So we work in all provinces. We've started in the Northern Cape and in Gauteng, but we work in all provinces. And it differs from province to province because it all depends on what has been prioritized by the provinces and the municipalities.
I was at the police station one day, and this two old couple, they had their masks on, and even the old man himself, he had a mask that was literally torn. And you could see that, you know, these people, they are struggling, but because they are trying to comply at the same time, they had just put it here, but you know, it was just so heartbreaking.
There was one day that I walked, and that was really during the hard lockdown, and I walked past one guy who had a towel wrapped in his face, and you could see that it's not because of any other thing, but he was preventing himself from the pandemic. But you can clearly see that this person doesn't have the resources to actually basically buy a mask. And at that time, I was with my sister-in-law. We stood and we gave him a mask and said, look, here's a mask for you. And he really appreciated it a lot.
There is most of the time where you find that, you know, somebody would have to choose between taking 10 rand and buying a mask, or taking the same 10 rand and buying a loaf of bread, so that, you know, they can be able to feed themselves and their kids, because the situation is very hard now.
I want to appreciate the partnership that was established through ourselves as SALGA and UNDP, and it should be something that is going on, and it should not end after COVID-19. But if there are any other programs that are available to empower our communities in terms of development, we will really accept and appreciate those programs, because government alone cannot meet to everybody, every corner, and make a good impact. But if we keep these partnerships, we can be able to achieve a lot, and those achievements can benefit our communities. I'm speaking now as a politician. It's part of service delivery. The little that you deliver to your community and it improves the lives of the community, makes the community to have confidence in whoever was in charge in terms of making sure that that initiative is a success.
We also want to thank you, to thank SALGA and appreciate SALGA for the partnership. It's a first for us, and as with all partnerships, there's we learn along the way. So we've been learning about local government, how local government operates, how democratic local government operates, how everything is about consultation and so on. And so we appreciate the partnership that we have with SALGA, and we look forward really to many more. Now it has been driven by COVID-19, but development is a broad space, and we believe that there's a lot more that we can do with SALGA. Thank you.
It is only if we partner as all of those that have the opportunity to leverage that we can be able to overcome the challenges that are confronting us in South Africa and globally. We are confronted with all sorts of challenges that I will not even begin to list now because of their complexity and the huge numbers. But only if we join hands and avoid throwing stones at one another, agree on a pursuit of a common goal, that we can be resilient as a country, as a society, as a people. And in that context, I would like to appreciate the UNDP and the team for having brought us here.